Okay, now I can finally say that I have tested all Fuji lenses for the Fuji X platform. As I've said in many prior videos, the only one I hadn't tested was the 16mm, which is right here. Of course, it recently came out along with the 35mm f2, which is absolutely stunning and blows the old 35mm Fujinon lens away in speed, cost, size, sharpness. Exquisite little lens. The only thing that people really don't like about that lens is they think it looks pointy, which it does. It looks like a Leica lens, but I mean, who gives a damn? I mean, I personally never gave a damn about what a lens looked like. Now, I have made a mistake, and to be a truth seeker, you have to confess when you've made a mistake. And I've said that I really wasn't interested in testing the 16. And I think most of that was based upon the fact that I should have known better, and the signs were there why I made a big mistake about this lens. And there we go. That fixes that. What did I do wrong on this lens? I tested the 14, which was pretty damn good. 14mm f2.8. The 18mm, not a good lens. Just most people agree. Well, I mean, a lot of people do love the lens, but it's not a good lens. I mean, I couldn't recommend it, even if I found one at a great deal. So I was assuming that the 16 would be the same. And of course, when you assume something, you make an ass out of you and me. But I also should have known that since this came out in the same time frame, roughly, as the new 35mm f2, that I should have been paying attention, but I wasn't. Now I've been testing this lens out for a couple days, and here's some test shots. Obviously you can't see a damn thing from that. And how do you put this scientifically? Damn! Yeah, it's not often that I say that. This is one of those lenses on a scale of 1 to 10, and I think of the 1,100 videos I've made on photography, many of which, of course, are lens reviews, and God knows you know I've owned a lot of lenses. I've only said that about 2 or 3 lenses. The Zeiss 35mm f2 Distagon, and like the 180mm 2.8 Nikkor. There might have been one other lens, so this is in one of 3 or 4 lenses that I've said that on. And to do that on a 16mm lens, especially in an f1.4, is nothing short of unbelievable. Now, a lot of people think they know a lot about lenses, even people who have been shooting a long time, but the pure optical hurdles required to create a 16mm like this at f1.4 with the attributes that this lens has is one of those epic moments where a lot of really high-level minds have either crunched for a long time or were divinely inspired to produce the attributes that this has, because what this lens is right on par with God, my top 3 or 4 Zeiss lenses. It really is. This lens is it's that damn good. And I am at fault. What I can also infer from this, what I should have inferred, and of course a lot of people say, what about the 16mm? Why don't you do it? I was like, I'm not going to review it, because I thought it would be like the 14mm. And I said in many prior Fuji videos that I've now, I got to the point where I've reviewed all Fuji lenses except for this one, and I said as much. Well, now I have reviewed this, and I stand corrected. I made a mistake. I assumed something about something that I didn't test, based upon the 14mm and 18mm. 18mm of which is just woof, woof. Yeah, not a lens I'd recommend. I think even Fuji knows that. But that's not a slant against Fuji, because there's no lens manufacturer that makes more than 10 or 15 lenses that they don't have a couple woofers. I'm being funny, but I'm actually being very sensible and logical about this. Wow, the bokeh, the bokeh, no matter what you want to call it, the depth of field, the color saturation, oh my God. The micro contrast, this makes it, at a 16mm, to get this at f1.4 is just unheard of. It is unheard of at that focal length. It is just freaking unheard of. This is basically a 24, 25 millimeter, 35 millimeter equivalent. Currently it's on sale for $800. I have to thank Dawn at Murphy's Camera for letting me borrow this, but this isn't a borrow lens anymore. It's mine! It also has, like the Takina, it has a slip clutch for engaging manual focus. You pull back on this ring and then you're able to engage manual focus. And you bring it back and then it won't turn. It's got 1/3 stop clicks on the aperture ring. It's made in Japan. It's all metal. It's 13 elements and 11 groups, as I recall. Yes, that's correct. It is a rather heavy lens at 13.23 ounces. It's also a weather-resistant lens. A 67 millimeter front filter, 9-bladed aperture. Incredible also, you can get right at 15 centimeters, just under, right at 5.8 inches, I believe. So you can get right in there for some stunning macro shots. There's an example that I printed out. It's like I forget what I cropped this at, about 60% or something. The detail, the IQ on this lens is phenomenal. The bokeh at 16 millimeters f1.4. Now, here's a fact. Then I've done test comparisons between this and the 14 millimeter. The 18 is a dog. Woof, 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 woof. So let's leave that out. The 14, its next closest brethren, at its max aperture f2.8. This is 96%, roughly right around there. As sharp, as good a corner to corner at f1.4 as the 14 millimeter is at f2.8, which is unheard of. I don't care if it's Fuji, I don't care who it is. Something that I can infer from this, since this lens and the 35 millimeter f2, which is just the tits, and they just came out recently, this lens and the 35 millimeter f2, Fuji has done one of two things. They have either put the whip to their lens designers and said, we're making awesome glass, but we are going to step it up hardcore, which that would also be a logical conclusion, and retroductively is the sensible one, or they have, well, actually, I really think that's the only thing, because, there are countless complex lens CAD design programs, but lens are always, as I've told you in prior videos, more than the sum of their parts. People look at MTF charts and they go to that BS site, which no professional uses at all, DxOMark. It is total bullocks. A lens is far more than sharpness. You got micro contrast, which is a perceptual depth, rendered depth, just to do with binocular disparity and depth of field and some other factors that take too long to get into. Color saturation, sharpness, obviously everything. Sharpness isn't everything. Some of the best lenses out there, and the one lens is making more money than any other lens on earth, 24-7 2.8 Nikkor, is not that really damn sharp of a lens. There are a lot of different attributes, and this lens is check, 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 check. And now it's easy. Nikon and Canon, and even the really crummy lens companies like Sigma can make a decent 35 millimeter f2. Okay, it's really hard to make a super awesome one like the Zeiss Distagon 35 f2, but it's not hard to crank out a good one. The CAD lens design for the optics are easy. But to crank out something with the attributes that this 16 millimeter has at f1.4 is unbelievable. I mean, it is stunning. It's the tits. It scores in my attribute list. And I've been, mentally developing for over 20 years now. It scores above a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. Well, how is that possible? A lens is more than the sum of its parts. It's kind of like taking a body apart. Well, you got an arm and a leg, and you sew them all together. You don't have a person. You certainly don't have a living person. It's the same thing with a lens. You can sew all the pieces together. You can slap it, and it's just going to sit there, and it's dead. It's kind of like a corpse that you sew together like Frankenstein. It's more than the sum of its parts, and short without getting into the long and gory details of it. But Fuji, with this lens, the 35mm f2, since it just came out, recently. Fuji has done something. They've either put a whip to their lens developers, because we're making awesome glass, but we're going to go a step above awesome. And by God, that's exactly what they've done. And I am at fault for judging this lens before having used it. I was going off the perspective of the 14 and the 14 millimeter and the 18, which is a dog. But I never thought, because it really is that Nikon nor Canon nor Zeiss. And Zeiss is infamously bad at one thing. There's one thing, I don't care how much you like Zeiss, and I got a lot of Zeiss lenses back there, and that's a lot of damn money. One thing that Zeiss sucks at is good ultra-wides. And Fuji has done something that neither Canon nor Nikon nor Zeiss, especially Zeiss actually, has done, and that is create an absolutely incredibly stunning wide, fast-ass lens like the 16mm. This is a must-have. Is this lens, also this is perfect for black and white, since the micro contrast, the rendered, the perceived depth, the micro contrast, the intertonal transmission on this lens is phenomenal. Go look at the Flickr page you want. I put up a couple sample pages as I do. I did a bunch of test shots, so I'm not going to put up the sample shots I did of family members and the family cat and some other stuff, but this lens blew me on my ass, and I made the mistake of, assuming things about it that I should not have assumed. Like I said, right now it's on sale for $800 until the end of the month, and it goes back up to $1,000. Is this lens worth that much? Damn yes it is. This, I have a hard time saying this is better than 56mm, which of course is a different beast. The 56mm Fujinon, as far as you're going down the list and what it scales on a scale of 1 to 10, it is actually better than the Fujinon 56mm, which is incredible. And shockingly better. Of course, it's a different lens and a totally different focal than the 35mm f2 Fujinon. But it is so much harder to make a lens like, nobody has ever made a lens at 16mm with this attributes, neither Canon, Nikon, or Zeiss. They haven't. The vignetting is basically negligible at f1.4. It's nothing. Corner to corner is incredible. This lens is performing better at f1.4 than the 14mm is at f2.8. This lens is the tits. It's amazing. It's mind-blowing. And I've only said that about 3 other lenses. Might be a 4th one, so it's only one of 3 or 4 lenses that I've said that about. And yeah, it's pretty damn expensive. Oh, another thing too. Now obviously you all know about focus peaking. The way this lens actually interfaces with focus peaking on the sensor is different. Anybody that owns a few Fuji lenses will tell you this, that there's a difference as far as the disparity you get and how great and easy the focus peaking is to use in manual focus between one Fujinon lens and another. It is interstellar good on the 16. When I was outside and inside shooting, manual focusing shadow and outdoors in moderate light, it's stunning. It's the best of all the Fujis. And like I said, this is the last one I had to test, and it totally knocked me off my socks and blew me on my ass, and it's just, I didn't want to buy another lens. Like, oh God, you're always buying lens. You're nothing but a gear acquisition slut. I say, not with difficulty, that this is Fuji's best lens. And that's in 2 categories. What it does and its attributes, but secondly so in a different category, the fact that they did this with a 16mm f1.4 is really it's like trying to say, well, build a Volkswagen with its poor aerodynamics that can compete with Indy race cars. Like, you're so full of crap. You cannot use like a Volkswagen aerodynamic profile. That's the same thing as what Fuji did with this 16mm. You get in the ultra wide like this, and to have those attributes and qualities, it's just unheard of. And that's why I assumed so much about it before having used it. I said it was the last one that I haven't tested. Now I've tested them all, and I had to get this one because it's that damn good. No exaggeration. Give one a test drive, And I stand corrected, but I will admit my fault on it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad I could present this to you. It is always the case too. It's like to save the best for last. It's like I looked everywhere for something. I went all over the island looking for, our lost little pet dog. It's like, well, did you look in the cave? I was like, oh, that's the last place. I looked everywhere on the island, but I didn't look there. It's like this is exactly what occurred to me. Is the typical paradigm. It's like I've tested every Fuji lens except for one, and by God, the last one that I test is the one that is that scores the highest in two different categories: what Fuji was able to do and what this sucker does. So it's one of those things that typically occurs. It's always in the last place you look, and there it is. And this really happened to me. It bit me good, but I'm actually happy about it. Incredible, absolutely incredible. Kudos to you, Fuji, for producing. I don't care whether you like Fuji or don't like Fuji. You're a Nikon nut, a Sony nut, a Canon nut. The fact that Fuji did this with a 16mm f1.4 is mind-blowing. They've either got some super geniuses there, or they're like cracking the whip and threatening him or something to produce something that's awesome. And I don't mean that jokingly. I mean it seriously, because it's basically impossible to produce that with a 16mm. Yes, I'm rambling, but this lens knocked me on my ass, and now I own it. Thank God I finally got to try it, because wow. And like as I told you before a few minutes ago, for using this lens with macro, as a macro lens, so it actually acts as a second lens, obviously a 16mm wide, 25mm equivalent, but it also is a wonderful macro lens. You can get so damn close with it, and it's so damn sharp. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.